Welcome back to the Tailoring Talk Magazine and part 3 of our huge Casino Royale spoiler review. We rejoin the action at the table of the first poker game in the movie, with Bond facing off against the sinister Mr. Demetrius. Phil steals the show in this part with a lot of poker insight. We follow the movie through to the point of a literal heart-stopping moment. Without further ado, let's join the Bondathon team to continue deep diving into this wonderful film. Enjoy.
Do you mind if I join you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Small blind, big blind.
Come in.
That's to you.
If that was for luck, you're 2 hours late.
200 to you. That's to you.
I've heard you.
Wait, 1,000?
5 to call. Action.
Pair of sevens. Ace high.
Check or bet.
Check.
And to you.
5,000.
Five to call.
Ace high. Play 1,000 each. Spin? Yeah. Throw that on.
Check.
Check to you, sir.
All in. No, wait. 20,000.
Table stakes. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay. This is on the table. That's my car. Want to bet?
I'm sorry, Mr. Demetrius.
Please, no. Give him a chance to win his money back.
All right, show me, gentlemen. Three kings. Trip aces. Aces win.
Oh, and the valet ticket. Thank you. Sir.
Oh, poker game. He goes to play poker with her boyfriend, and he wins the DB5.
Yeah, the Mr. Demetrius.
Mr.
Yes,
Demetrius.
with Mr. Demetrius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Phil.
Craziest poker game ever. Yeah, sorry, yes.
Baccarat, is it?
Yeah.
Is it Baccarat they're playing here? Or is it still poker?
No, they're playing poker. They're playing No Limit Texas Hold'em.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Is it quite normal for a super rich person who doesn't care about money to go throw the keys to an amazing car on the table if he hasn't got any more money to put down?
No, again, absolutely not. And what would normally happen, I mean, this is a tourist spot, and there would never be that many tables dedicated to poker. But again, you know, this is the poker boom, and they are trying to generate interest in the game because it is so popular, and millions of people are watching the World Series of Poker at this particular time. So there is a lot of emphasis on it, but, you know, they've not really thought about it in terms of actual poker playing. In fact, Daniel Craig, when he sits down at the table, he only sits down with, like, maybe 80 big bets, which, if you're playing at a table like that, you're going to go broke pretty quickly. And also, it was really weird in terms of the way it was set up for that last hand where he actually won the hand, because the guy who he was playing with, we didn't see it, but he was very steamed leading up to that point in terms of the amount of money he was losing, because he was doing well. Then Argentinian non-horse rider shows up, he starts losing his money, and then he gets into a hand that he shouldn't have gotten.
Her name is Solange.
Yeah, he gets. Yeah, but if we track back, she shows up, and the idea is that she's supposed to put off the opponents. There was a woman sitting on the table. It's really disrespectful. If you're sitting at a table playing cards, if you're playing for those sorts of stakes, I mean, I worked out that they had about 20,000 each. There was about 100,000 on the table, and no one's going to pay attention to a woman walking past if you're involved in a hand where there's £100,000 on the table. It's just a little bit sort of old school vibes about the game.
Yeah.
But, yes.
But that dress, though.
She looked amazing.
That dress.
She looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah, she did.
All Bond wanted to do was pump her for information. And that he got when he realised that she had the information.
But he didn't know. It was never his intention.
There was no pumping.
There was like he was like, I'm not gonna give John Evans an opportunity to put a 1 in his bonkometer in 18 years' time.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, he probed, got the information, and then he basically said, "Is that for 2?" And he said, "No, for 1," and then he left. Mm-hmm. So he left her to it.
Yeah, but
so he got the information subtly, and then said,
and she was killed for it.
Yeah. Caviar and champagne for 1. I'm off to solve the case.
Yeah, but he's all about getting the job done so far. Yeah. This is what we're sort of getting to know about this Bond. That you know, if it was Sean Connery, Roger Moore, they definitely would have. I think Dalton probably would have done the same. He would have ditched and run.
Connery and Moore, they'd be on their 4th lady by now at this part of the film.
This is true.
At least.
Yeah.
But also,
I miss those days. I miss those days of multiple figures in my counter, my Bond counter. It's not the same.
But this then harks back to why he was chosen to play the poker game, because he's demonstrating to the audience that he has no emotion. You know, he's taken the emotion out of this. He's taken the emotion out of winning the chips and winning the car and all of that. Lovely car that he got. What was that? Was it
a
DB5 or something? An old 1965.
Yeah, the original Goldfinger.
Yeah.
It was the Goldfinger car.
No,
it was.
Yeah, so no emotion throughout,
DBS.
which is why he was chosen to play in the big poker game for 100 million.
Yeah,
because later on the car he rolls as a Vanquish, isn't it? It's a DBS, but he has a Vanquish.
No, DBS is he drives a DBS in the film.
Yeah.
No, Demetrius's car. What's that?
DB5.
That's DBS.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a DB5.
No, it is a 5. Yeah. Sorry.
Don't listen to John. He can't. He needs to go to Specsavers. He's reading the 5 as an S.
I can't read. I'm reading my notes I'm reading my notes I took from the film. I can't read it. It's
bloody handwriting.
It's because the DBS was an old car, and then it was resurrected.
I said the new car's a DBS. That one's a DB5. That's it. No more discussion. Moving on.
Yeah.
So Bond intercepts Demetrius.
No Mondeo.
No. Bond intercepts Demetrius at Miami Airport. You lot moan when I don't go through the film in order. I'm going through the film in order now.
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Keep going.
Good. So he intercepts Demetrius at the airport during this weird Body Worlds exhibition, which was a real thing. Although this one, they actually set it up for the movie. It wasn't actually something that happened to be going on at the time. I've never been to one of those Body Worlds things. Freaks me out. Whatever. He leaves what is, I think it's a key or something for.
It's a tag, isn't it? Some sort of tag.
Yeah, some sort of tag for.
It's locker
for the
key.
New bomber, because Mads Mikkelsen, Le Chiffre, has got a new guy, and then he spots Bond, and Bond kills him very efficiently and leaves him there, and then Bond goes after the new bomber, who is basically trying to blow up the launch of this new aeroplane to help tank the airline's stock, so that Le Chiffre can double his warlord's money.
I've got a question, Bobby.
John's got one.
Answer, because I know you all know the answer. What the hell is Richard Branson doing at the airport going through the pleb metal detector? What was that all about?
He had a cameo in the film. I can't remember exactly why. It might have just been he wanted to be in it. And it actually
cash into the film, do you think?
He had a longer scene that was cut, and in which he was actually arguing with the people because he gets detained going through the security,
the metal detector.
And in the end, they cut it, and it literally all you see is just that bit of him sort of being scanned in the detector. And the reason they had to cut it was because other airlines weren't happy, because it was literally advertising for. Basically, they said they won't show that scene. They'll cut it when they show the film on in-flight entertainment, because you want someone sitting on a British Airways flight looking at a 30-second scene with the owner of Virgin Atlantic, etc., etc. So it's really weird what people get hung up on, because I reckon most people wouldn't really. That wouldn't make you want to get a Virgin Atlantic. The reason I fly Virgin Atlantic sometimes is because I'm going to America, and because they're kind of the best people to fly there. If I'm going the other way, I'll go with British Airways. By the way, neither Virgin Atlantic nor British Airways sponsor the podcast. The podcast doesn't make any freaking money at this point in time, or the time of recording in 2024. All references to Richard Branson, etc., are just purely coincidental and based on characters, either non-fiction or fictional. You work it out. It's up to you. It's your problem if you've got a problem with it. So this action sequence has been argued that it was actually not necessary. Which, you know...
I liked it. It was quite a tense scene.
It was necessary.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was good.
Of course it was, because he needed to stop their nefarious plot to then make Le Chiffre have to go and do this...
stock thing.
Do the poker thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have stopped shorting the stock, and it wouldn't have made any sense.
Also...
So this is
you've got Bond beating him at poker. You've got Bond foiling his stock market plan. It's all a lead up to him being properly wound up by Bond ruining his plans. So it's really important. You understand why this guy's being whacked in the old happy sacks by Le Chiffre, because he's done all these things to him in the lead up to that scene. So it's really really important. Plus, I loved it when the plane jet spun the car backwards. That's awesome. Love that.
Yeah, I think they put that car on a crane, and then it was yanked back when the plane went over. But I mean, that's the other thing. It's all practical effects in this film. There was very little digital enhancement, because again, it was about that whole sort of going back to sort of realism and all of that sort of thing. But I thought this sequence was great, and I particularly love the bit where he sort of turns the tables on the bomber. The bomber thinks that he's completed his mission, hits the thing on his phone, and then hears the beeping and realises that Bond has tagged the bomb to his arse, and then he blows up. And it's just a little subtle smile as the camera closes in on Bond's face when the explosion happened. As he's being arrested, And it just shows like how cold-blooded this guy is. Like, he is an efficient killer, basically. Loved it. So after the airport, what happened? Oh, right. Okay. So here's the thing, guys. Right. So he goes back to the Bahamas with M and finds Solange is dead. And then M says, "I knew that you'd get the job done." Blah blah blah. I love you really, but just don't tell everybody. And then she has to sort of send him off again. But this time she puts a tag in him. Now, his face is all cut up from what happened in Miami. From this scene, he then goes to Montenegro. So he's on the train with Vesper. We'll come back to that because that's a very important scene. And he's got slightly less cuts on his face. They've sort of faded a little bit, which is fine. And then the next scene, he's in the cab with Vesper, talking about their aliases and so on, and his face is healed up completely. Now,
is Bond a vampire, do you think?
Here's the thing, guys. Today's Wednesday, so 10 days ago, I got hit side on at 25 miles an hour by an SUV while on my bike. Ooh. I've still got scabs and scars and shit on my shoulders, my hip, like all the way down my leg. This arm in a cast. How the hell does this fucker heal up in 24 hours?
Superhero.
Because you're not Bond.
He's got very good healthcare, perhaps.
That type of continuity irritates me, I'm sorry to say. Maybe nobody else was looking for that, but when I saw his face cut up in the scene where he's with M, I was thinking, he's on the next part of the mission within 24 hours. Let's see how quickly this bastard heals up. and his face is perfect within less than 48 hours. It's crazy. It's not real. It's not realistic. I just wanted to say that. Back to the train. This is where we first meet Vesper. Now, let's talk about how Bond's dressed. Does he not look super cool?
Yeah,
lovely.
I'm looking at him now.
Yeah, his shirts in this film are very self-stripy, very exuberant, very dressy. But yeah, he's
on the train. He's got like a brown. It looks like a lamb's wool tie, like a textured tie, and he's got like a nice grey stripe to his shirt that's very subtle. And he's wearing a very kind of almost plain dark jacket, but it looks kind of like relaxed, but professional at the same time.
He's wearing a navy suit with a burgundy tie. It's woven with little spots. It's not a lamb's wool knit.
It's not lamb's wool.
You said.
No.
And it's a white sort of self-shadow stripe herringbone shirt. But yeah, very, very elegant. And then this is where we get the first interchange between him and Vesper. So she turns up. She's the accountant who's been sent to keep an eye on the money and so on. And she is the money. She is every flipping bit of it because she looks stunning. Really. What a beautiful woman. But I love the interchange between them. I really do, because it tells a lot about each character. And it just kind of starts off that little, I don't know, sort of frisson between them while she's keeping him well firmly at arm's length. But the whole thing about, the sort of working out that they're orphans and, the type of watch he's wearing and the cut of his suit and all of that sort of stuff, I think was just, again, this is another scene in this film that I could just watch again and again and again. Phil, why did we need an accountant for an MI6 operative going to a poker tournament?
So in this case, the way that it was designed, that the money had to be wired directly to Montenegro. So before they showed up, the accountant had the account number, and then Bond would have the password if he won. So it had to be wired directly, and also they needed someone in case they needed to rebuy, which he did, but he never actually took the money from her. It came from CIA. But that was the reason why it was needed, to make sure that it was a prudent investment and it was safe for the Treasury. And that was the reason why that was in place.
Yeah. Someone's got to keep an eye on him. Another costume change when they get to the hotel and get off the train. So he's now wearing a sort of ice blue shirt with a little bit of striping in it, a blue woven tie. And then he's got a really nice overcoat over the top of that. He just looks really good. I think for me, this is the best dressed Bond to date. He just looks so good in this film. The tailoring is very much of its time because the trousers, if you noticed, are quite wide-legged. And that's how it was in the noughties. Everything was sort of boot cut and so on. But he does look really, really good. Brioni was who Lindy Hemming, the costume designer, went to. One of my favourite, one of the most famous as well. Lindy Hemming's done so much stuff. Harry Potter. My mind's gone blank. But I mean, anyway, she's done so much, and she's amazing. And I've been trying to reach out to her to get her on a podcast because that would be a scoop. We see the DBS for the first time because this is where he gets his car. I love Aston Martins. I'm not sure I'd ever own one because apparently they just spend a lot of time in garages, but they are aesthetically very pleasing to the eye. Alex, this is possibly the easiest you're ever going to get it for gadgets on a Bond car or gadgets in a Bond film. So take it away, boy. Take it away.
It's so light. It's so light. So the main thing that you have is you've got the defibrillator, which is in the glove compartment, or Medipack as they call it, and that's almost it. I just don't think there's. The only other thing I wanted to mention was there is the
phone, though, has
suitcase which
Alex's his K800 has a special sort of graphics mode that can track thing through it that you wouldn't.
Oh, it's got a phone tracker. Yeah, it's got a phone tracker. Which the thing is, I couldn't concentrate with those because the images were obviously so doctored.
Yeah, they were.
I was just like,
superimposed
that's not what they look like. So sorry, that threw me because I was just like, that's not what my phone looked like. That's ridiculous. And then the other thing is obviously how he paid for all the money. So that suitcase that the banker Mendel, that was a kind of gadget. It's not really his gadget.
You're clutching at straws, aren't you?
Apart from that, I really am. I have, pardon me, I have that. One of these on the list is actually a knotted rope and a nail gun, and I'm just like, if you're trying that hard, the key fob detonator from the plane action thing, but really there's nothing because this is also the only bomb with no Q, so it's just there is no
Q doesn't even turn up until Skyfall, so we've still got another 2 movies before we get to Q. And even then, he doesn't really give him anything.
The defibrillator.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
I would just say about the defibrillator, that did raise a lot of awareness about the use of defibrillators and its life-saving qualities. And it did. Yeah. This is one of the things that did increase the use of defibrillators. So we do owe a lot to Casino Royale for that.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah, this was the first Bond film not to include Q and Moneypenny. So they were both missing in action. But yeah, no, there's nothing else. There's nothing else to talk about, and I don't want to talk about the Mondeo anymore.
When I first saw this,
and even the Sony Veo, I'm over it now.
When I first saw this, when Vesper arrives on the train, and she says, "I'm the money," and he says, "Every penny of it." I remember turning around to Carolina. Now I remember Carolina was there, saying, "Oh, maybe she's the money. Maybe she's the new money penny, right?" Because they, yeah. She said money, he said penny. Anyway, so
no.
So still on costumes because now they're getting ready to go and play some poker and stuff, and so Vesper's getting ready. She hasn't got any makeup on. She's in the mirror. Sorry, I'm going to lose our clean rating. I already lost it. How fucking beautiful does she look pre-makeup? She's absolutely, oh my God, heartbreakingly stunning. She's so beautiful. It's because she's French. But she looks amazing. Anyway, so Bond brings her dress, and she's kind of like, "What the fuck are you giving me that for?" And he's like, "Well, I need you to come over, distract the other players, and kiss me and all the rest of it, so that they lose their concentration while we're playing poker." And then she gives him his tux, and he's like sneers. He's like, "What the fuck are you giving me that for?" It's tailored. And then she says, "I sized you up the moment we met." And he puts the tux on for the first time. And I thought to myself, when I marry this girl sitting next to me, it's like right there in the cinema, I was like, that's how I'm going to dress for our wedding day. And that's exactly what we did. I'll see if I can find a photo for the YouTube version. I'll put it up. Not that anyone's interested. But I copied that Brioni tux for my own wedding. Didn't I, Phil? Phil was my best man, by the way.
Absolutely. And that's right. And what I would say about the actual DJ and them getting ready to play poker, in the real life, if you are getting ready to play poker and you dress up in a dinner jacket, everyone will realise you are the amateur.
Great. Noted.
It's good to know.
So then we get into the poker game. So back to Phil. Any notes from... So this is the section of the poker game leading up to the first break, where we then have the terrorists turn up. But any notes from this first? Because there's like one freeze frame here where the river is a 9 of clubs, 9 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 5 of hearts. So there's 3 hearts.
Right, so, okay.
What's going on?
Okay. All right. So one thing I will say about this is that if you've done your research in terms of like how the experts see the poker game on Casino Royale, a lot of them are basing it on how the game is played right now. And there's no way it would be played in that way now. But we are back in 2006, and it's all about the entertainment, and people talk a lot about tells, as in, it's worth it to figure out his tell. It was worth making the call to figure out Le Chiffre's tell, because he was nervous when the river until the river came down, and then he had the best hand, and and so on and so forth. But they're very, very, very deep in this tournament. They've got 1,000 big blinds at this point, and the sizes of the pots are very small up until this point. And Le Chiffre decides he's going to make a move. All that there is on the board is 9, 8, and 5, and they're all hearts. And then Le Chiffre bets 50, Bond calls. The turn is a 9 of clubs. So there's now 2 9s on the board. There's still a flush out there. And Le Chiffre then bets 100,000 and Bond just calls. But then the river comes down and it's a 2. And then Le Chiffre bets 200 grand very casually and Bond calls. And then Le Chiffre shows 2 2s for a full house. Bond never shows it, but I think what he had was pocket aces with a heart, and he probably rivered a flush, and he just called on the end. So that pot went to Le Chiffre. But what we are led to believe is Le Chiffre is a wizard in mathematics, but all he really did was just get lucky and win the pot on the river. There were so many hands that could have beat Le Chiffre's hand until the river. In fact, there was only 2 cards in the entire deck that allowed him to win the entire pot, and that was all he did. So he just got lucky. Doesn't really tell you anything about Le Chiffre's mathematical genius or prowess.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So anyway, while you were doing all of that and I zoned out, I was. It's not. Look, it's not. The reason why I was excited to have Phil here is because he does. That's what he does. He explains all the poker stuff. The reason I'm so shit at poker, as Phil will tell. How do I play, Phil?
The thing with you
like Le Chiffre
is that you don't sometimes realise when you've got good cards.
I'm chaos theory, aren't I?
I think I'm ahead of you, and then you turn over your card. Oh, you've made a flush. You're like, oh, did I? Oh shit! And then you end up taking the pot. So it's just,
there was
you play the hand as if you don't have anything because you genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
And then you end up winning.
I cleared. There was one time I did clear my friends out up here in North London with like my cycling buddies. We used to do poker evenings, and I think there was a lot of chips on the table. Anyway, I don't know what they do, but yeah, I had no fucking clue what was going on. And then it was like, okay, Bobby, you need to, like, if you're going all in, you need to show your cards now. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what I've got here, but does this win? And I don't know what I had, but it beat everything else. And everyone just literally just got up, threw their cards at me and just walked off. And I was like, and there is a photo somewhere. I'll see if I can find it and I'll post it up on the YouTube version of me just sort of going like this, like all these chips. I didn't get any money for it, but anyway. This is what I found out. This is how you make a vodka martini shaken, not stirred. Would you like the recipe, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Three measures of Gordon's. 1 of vodka, half a measure of quinoa lillet, shake it over ice, and then add a thin slice of lemon peel. There you go. And then...
I'll have one of
those. Make me one of those too. Hey, I'll have one of those. Keep the fruit. That was the best one. Felix, keep the fruit. And then Le Chiffre tops it off with like, okay, is that it? Is everyone done? Like, can we play some cards now?
Yeah.
But that was such a cool... Like, I don't know if anyone ever really asked for a scene where he gives the recipe, the origin of the martini. But it was so cool the way that it was done. And then I love the way that Vesper later sort of takes a sip of it and then her reaction is like, oh, actually, it is quite good. Now, apparently, I've got friends that have tasted these and I don't know, we're going to have to go to... There's a bar in London, there's a hotel in London, and the bar is where they famously serve that. It's the original James Bond bar or something. I don't know, I need to find out about it. But apparently, we have to go there and have a vodka martini. So we'll do that at some point. So they play poker, and then there's a break. Huh? Dukes, yeah. That rings a bell. Yeah. So this is another scene where there's a lot of controversy. There are a lot of people that say this scene was not necessary for pacing. They could have cut it out completely. The theory being, so what happens is Le Chiffre goes back to his room. Everybody goes back to their room because they got a 3-hour break from the poker. And the African warlord is waiting there with his henchmen for them. And he basically is like, where the fuck is my money? Le Chiffre is like, I'll get it. They're like, we're going to cut your girlfriend's arm off. And then he doesn't, because it's like, oh, he obviously doesn't care about you. Get a new boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. Then they spot Bond. Bond's got the thing in his ear. Then there's a really visceral, Bourne Identity level, violent fight in which Bond then ends up killing both of them. But a lot of people say this scene wasn't necessary because surely the warlord would have just been waiting for Le Chiffre, like at some point, or I don't know. They just like let the game continue, and then when he loses everything, there'll be loads of people waiting for Le Chiffre after the game. But I just think that would have made for a shit movie.
Also, you wouldn't get the Vesper shower scene where she's traumatized.
No,
if you didn't have this
that's
scene.
the thing, and you needed that for the connection between them to sort of grow.
Every scene sets up another scene, and this is another key one. It's funny because we never actually find out about who his Le Chiffre's girlfriend is. She's never mentioned. Her name's Valenka, but yeah, they never she never talks.
I recognise the actress though.
But I think Ivana
can't say her surname.
Milicevic.
Yeah,
I can't
she's
say
Bosnian Croat American.
But no, it's.
I recognise her from another film. I can't think what it is. It's going to bug me.
You have to look it up, John. But the fight is very visceral. It's very violent. We see Bond in a quiet moment post-fight where he's having to clean himself up, clean the blood. He takes a double shot of whiskey to calm his nerves down again, and then he finds Vesper in the shower, and then there's that famous scene with them together, and it is very, very tender, and very, very well played. But again, it's like he's got cuts and scars and stuff. I cut myself shaving, and I'm having to explain it all freaking day, and like he goes back to the table, and his face is absolutely perfect again.
What I like about that scene is the original scene. Vesper was meant to be in her underwear in the shower, and Daniel Craig actually said to the movie makers, "That doesn't make sense. She wouldn't do that." And so he's actually like contributing to kind of the whole vibe and feel of that scene, making it more realistic. And I think also shows what a gent Daniel Craig is as well, really. But it made it more believable. But I think the thing about films like Casino Royale and Bond films and also John Wick films is you have to have a character that's very, very slightly bulletproof and superhero-ish to keep the film going. If they did really get badly hurt, you'd lose that kind of hero worship and respect for the character, I think, a little bit. I don't know. Can you think of a film with the characters his injuries? Can you think of a film like Nobody or something?
Yes, yeah. Luc Besson in Jean Reno in Léon does keep his injuries.
It's a cracking film, that one. Cracking film.
Okay. That is one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. Liam Neeson in any of his Jerry actioners. So moving swiftly on, otherwise this is going to become the longest episode of this podcast ever.
It was the longest Bond
2024
up
minutes
until now, wasn't it?
Oh, there you go. This justifies it. Yeah. So Mathis takes great delight in showing that he's managed to get rid of the bodies and blame someone else for it as well, which was a little bit wicked. And then we go back to the poker table again, and they play some more poker. I think this is the point where Bond starts to lose.
It's just one of those hands that he should have just all the money. Yeah, basically on this particular hand, all the money should have gone in before the community cards came in. One Bond had an ace king, and the other one had jacks. But for dramatic effect, they played out the flop and the turn and the river so that Bond would end up with a full house, and Le Chiffre had quad jacks to win. And by the way, Yes.
Was Vesper meant to come in and distract them at this point? And she came in
No,
late,
that
is
was
right?
in the scene before.
That was in the previous
That was
scene.
the previous scene.
Because she looks
That
fabulous.
was when he
in
lost
these
the
scenes.
740k pot. She looks lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
She did.
This was just one of those hands where, Vesper was very angry at Bond because she thought that he lost the money because of his ego. The reality is, if you play poker, if you fold an ace-king full house, you might as well retire from poker. Because you shouldn't... If you're going to fold an ace-king full house, there's very few hands that will beat yours. So it wasn't his ego, it was just the hand had to play out like that.
Right,
it was nothing to do with his ego. It was just a cooler.
It's a game of chance.
It is what it is with the way the game plays out.
On that particular occasion, it's a game of... in that particular hand... It was nothing that could have been done. It was always going to be the Schiffer winning that hand. There was absolutely nothing Bond could have done to get that back. But then the rebuy, when he gets his 5,000 after the CIA man gives him his 5,000 eventually. Felix.
He's 10 million, doesn't he? I thought it was 10 million.
Felix.
They give him a rebuy of 5 million, which is only 25 big blinds. But somehow, as time goes on, he's got the majority of the chips. So you don't see it, but he builds up his stack to the point where there are only four-handed. He must have played very, very well.
Right.
He played very, very well, but we didn't see it. And then it got four-handed, and we got to that really stupid end poker hand, which annoyed me even then. I wasn't even interested in cards as much back then, but I shouted out the hand before it was dealt what Bond had.
Yeah.
And you straight away that it was 5-7 spades.
But before that, we did get a scene with something that you are very interested in, which is where Bond gets poisoned, and then he has to go to the Aston Martin.
That is that scene. It's not before that.
Defibrillator.
He gets poisoned after he's bought him with Felix.
Oh, does he get poisoned because Le Chiffre gets pissed off with him and he's like, I'm just going to kill him?
They thought he was out.
Okay. There was a hand that the Chiffre lost, and he folded his hands, he got pissed off.
Yeah, he went to buy a martini, didn't he?
And he picked up.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend,
and then he picked up some chips.
She poured the drugs into his drink at the bar. Digitalis, isn't it?
Yes.
Digitalis she put into his drink, and
So this scene saved me from disaster on a night out in the West End once. So me, Phil, and some colleagues were in Ruby Lowe's in Portman Square. Do you remember, Phil? And you were buying me you were buying me Mai Tais, right? Because I was like, I'll have a Mai Tai, and then I really liked it because I got a sweet tea. Yeah, you were. Just don't argue with me, because this is what happened. And then I got so drunk.
Okay.
I got so drunk, I was going to literally pass out. So I grabbed salt off a table, went into the toilets to make myself throw up, but it was too late. I passed out, and then Phil and some of my other colleagues were banging on the toilet door because I'd passed out in there, and they had to break in and get me out. Do you not remember this? It's like every time we went out in the West End, I'd literally end up under the table within about 5 minutes.
Oh, Bobby.
Yeah, there's probably so many of them. That's probably why I didn't remember this specific one. But there we go.
I know. That's my origin story, and then I turned into this super cool person that you know today. Anyway, but he gets to use the defibrillator. Now, isn't it handy that they put a defibrillator in the car?
Yeah, definitely.
It is, but it wasn't plugged in.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't.
It was very thrilling, wasn't it?
It was really good.
It was,
because it is a real heart in the mouth moment.
It was plugged in. Yeah. It was plugged in. It just got disconnected as he put it on his chest. That was the only reason it got disconnected. The wire came out.
But Vesper saves him.
But I love the fact he then goes back to the game and says, "The last hand nearly killed me." I love that. Sort of. That's again.
But also when he comes back to life, when Vesper saves him, and the first thing he does, he looks at her and he's like, "Are you okay?" That's what happened to me. My cycling accident. I came to, and the witnesses that were helping me, and I looked at everyone. And I was like, "Are you okay?" Because James Bond. Whatever.
Yeah, James Bond.
In Lycra.
That was the first thing on your mind after being knocked over by an SUV, wasn't it?
He was making sure everyone else was okay,
yeah.
That's the end of part 3. Part 4 will be ready for your listening pleasure in just a couple days' time. In the meantime, if you're listening on YouTube, remember to subscribe so you don't miss future podcast episodes and videos. hit that like button and join the conversation in the comments. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can text the show directly by hitting the text the show link at the top of the show notes, or email us directly at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Stay safe, be stylish, and we'll see you very soon for our fourth and final part of the big Casino Royale Tailoring Talk Magazine Bondathon review.